Welcome to Bubbler.
Greetings and welcome to Bubbler. Bubbler Podcast is committed to providing water cooler conversations to help make you the life of the break room and office party. Kerry, my partner in all things mischievous, how are you this fine day?
I am doing so good, Mick. As always, happy as a pig and shipped to be here.
There's some happy swine. So what are we going to talk about today? What's new? What's on the horizon? What are your thoughts?
It's fall. I love this time of year, love football. I remember growing up, one of my favorite times was to get the TV guide, and I know I'm dating us, and get that fall show lineup. Was seeing all the news shows, but also the ones that I love so much that came back for another season. And it got me thinking about all the great TV show theme songs. And I started to I wonder what Mick thinks. So what do you think?
I love it. Television shows are either 22 minutes without commercials or 44. So they've got to use sometimes that theme music to either take a unfamiliar viewer to kind of get them up to speed, because some theme songs tell you the overall gist of the show or sum it up to date even sometimes, or they set the tone, the first opportunity to really impact you as a viewer. So I love it. Wow. I mean, I don't think you could think of a better example of the importance of music than in a theme song.
I know. I love it. So much fun, especially growing up. In my opinion, some of those songs are the ones that are the best.
Let's start with that. Let's start with
Okay.
that early childhood.
Oh, yeah.
And what theme song, if you heard it and you were in the other room as a child, and this could be any age, first memory of it or the one that stands out the most, but what theme song would make you run to the television almost as excited as when the Michael Jackson Thriller video was on MTV and you'd run in from outside to watch it?
I do think that's the fun of some of these old shows. We didn't have, the mute. You can just stop live TV. And so that was your like bell. Like you better get in there. You're going to miss this show. I think that, kind of lost in some of the programming we have today. But I'm going to go old school, early childhood. Mr. Rogers, you bring in It's a Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood, and I know I am going to go and I'm going to watch Mr. Rogers, and I am so excited to see him. But I'm gonna have to say that whole PBS network of song, all those shows, the Sesame Street, the Electric Company, Zoom, 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 all of that was embedded in my mind. But I would say, Mr. Rogers is probably my earliest memory.
You know, what's cool about Mr. Rogers, the fact that he just walks in like a boss and just
Mhm.
drops it himself. Like with Sesame Street, it's a very well produced. You got sick kids singing, and I can hear that weird, funky bell sound and everything. Fred just rolls in, looks right at you, breaks the fourth wall, starts singing, and basically welcomes you into his living room right there on the spot, gets comfortable in front of you, which I don't know if you could do any of those things today without people going, what's up with Fred? But I think that's a good one. I think I agree. I think it was, he tells you exactly what you're going to do. He's welcoming you into the neighborhood. He's happy to have you. He's setting a positive tone, and the simplicity of it basically tells you this is what you're in for, and it matches the themes and everything that happens in that entire show. I like all of those. And the first thing you made me think of is, oh my gosh, I forgot about Electric Company, which actually out of all those shows
Was your favorite one?
was my favorite.
Me too.
Not only was it hipper and, again, how do you start? They're yelling at you in case you're in the other room going, hey,
Hey,
you
you
guys. And honestly, that was my first introduction to the Marvel Universe, and Spider-Man was that little cheesy Spider-Man sketch they had. And they didn't put it on every episode. So I would sit there and my heart was broken if I didn't get a little Spider-Man in my episode. Since I'm going to give you all those, mine is also PBS, but it's because it was PBS reruns, and it was a show that my mother introduced me to from her childhood. Underdog.
Oh, yeah.
I can sing like 3 or 4 lines, and then it's kind of like REM's "It's the End of the World as We Know It," and I can just mumble the rest to it and just kind of
Yeah.
underdog. I mean, that for me, Polly Purebred, Underdog, that's that whole genre of cartoons. For me, that was the early afternoon, after kindergarten, after school shows. Underdog, Rocky and Bullwinkle. I'm getting the warm fuzzies just thinking about it. So I think those are all great examples. Now, let's think of one maybe growing up. Let's get a little older. Maybe you're a preteen, not quite a preteen, going into teen. At this point, I think it's now all about the song being catchy. Was one of your favorites when you were a little older, or that maybe you still see on one of those antenna TV type networks that if you hear the theme song, you're like, I at least got to give this one a few minutes.
Okay. So this one is my entire childhood. This show ran probably my prime preteen teen. You would probably guess it if you thought about it for a minute. It is 100%. It was a spinoff from another show, but its song will live forever as far as I'm concerned, and that is The Facts of Life.
Really?
Yes.
Okay, well, the song now is automatically in my head, so
Yep.
obviously it's a good choice. That is one that kind of surprises me. I did enjoy that show. A lot of people don't realize that is a spin-off with Mrs. Garrison from
Garrett.
different different strokes, right?
Yes, that's Mrs. Garrett,
Mrs.
Different
Gar
Strokes.
I think Mrs. Garrison was the name in the porn parody. Maybe that's what it is.
Maybe, yeah.
I can just think of her the way she wobbles her head when she talks and has that voice. So I
Well,
can see that one.
And Different Strokes also had a great song. That's the thing with these shows. They all had these great entries, and you couldn't skip over the song like you can today on Netflix. Like, it even has that little button on Netflix where it's like skip intro. Dead. What it did is it embedded it in your head, and you couldn't stop thinking about the facts of life. You take the good, you take the bad, you know?
Well,
And
I don't know that I got real introspective about it, but I was excited, for the show, and I was, that I think Blair was one of the first girls I noticed as an adolescent on television. I thought Blair was pretty hot. I can visualize it as you're saying it, so I guess the measure is you can't argue with it if the first thing you do is hear it in your head when the other person says it, right?
yeah.
So I think that's definitely a hit. Again, I like both of those for you. The one I thought you were gonna throw at me, it's not my favorite, but I can't not mention it, is the Brady Bunch theme song.
Oh, well, yeah.
And I did love that show as a child, and I've gone back and watched it, and it's still funny, especially if you know the behind the scenes of it. It makes the show even more enjoyable, and the movies were great. Was it 90s that the films were made, where they actually made fun of the show while
Yes.
also representing the show was
Yes.
phenomenal.
Love that show, and obviously that song is iconic. I watched that in reruns. So the Facts of Life, I had to wait to watch a new episode every week. So for me, I feel like that's my childhood, you know?
No, I like it, I like it. Now, my favorite choice, I just felt like I was doing a disservice if I didn't mention Brady Bunch. Mine would be The Love Boat, if I'm going early
Ooh.
childhood, because I absolutely loved watching that show with my parents, and that was one of those shows that your parents got more out of it because there was definitely adult pieces in it. I had a crush on Julie as a child. Obviously, my hormones are going to be a theme
In
for
this
the rest of my lives
episode.
and this episode. The Love Boat to me, I just thought it was a great show. Now, here's the funny thing about it. There's another famous show, not near as famous as The Love Boat, that had almost the exact same structure where it was a vacation or destination.
Mhm.
There was always some inner conflict with the individuals that worked there. There was one big conflict or main story that withstood the entire episode, and then one or two smaller stories, all related to guest. And you know what show used that exact same outline was Vegas.
Oh, yeah. It did. You know what else the Love Boat had? You watch the beginning just to see who
Who were the
the
guest
guests
stars?
were. Yeah, and if it was a guest, maybe a younger guest, 'cause sometimes they had kid stars
Oh,
on there,
yeah. Oh,
I would watch.
absolutely.
Yeah,
Because that was
yeah.
a show my mom was gonna watch. I'm with you. If the guest would definitely influence how quickly my
Mhm.
ass would hit the floor,
Yeah, yeah.
and sit and
That's a
watch it.
good
That is,
one.
as a matter of fact, what's hilarious is there are memes of fake guest intros now, and I saw one that had Ron Jeremy on it as the guest. I didn't realize it was a parody at first. I'm like, "Ron Jeremy was on The Love Boat? Get out of here." And then I realized someone was going back and inserting fake guest stars, the
Onto those.
intros, and, there's some great ones out there. I highly recommend Googling them. I think you'll have a fun time with them. So, let's get a little older, and let's talk about ones from either your teenage television viewing years or college. The theme song resonates with you today or brings back good memories.
I had such a hard time thinking about this one because as I started thinking about all these great songs, I was like, "Well, what is my favorite?" And I don't have one. I think that's obvious. I don't think anybody is gonna have one that may be favorite for right now. But I figured there was a theme. It's all surrounded by friends. And not even just the Friends, which is it's a great song. As you said earlier, I would be doing a disservice that we don't mention Friends, but that is not my favorite. Then I think about the 80s and I think about Cheers and oh my
Oh,
god.
you just took mine. Yes.
And that is and I'll let you talk about that one, but the Golden Girls, which I think is so appropriate as I'm aging. I just think all of it is just thank you for being a friend is gotta be up there for me. And we often on this podcast talk about how our tastes change and our opinions change with age and wiseness and all that. And I just feel like that one resonates with me the most right now. And I actually was just thinking about rewatching that show this morning. So I actually think I'll be listening to that song on repeat for the next couple of weeks.
So, Rue, the actress who
Yes.
played Blanche,
Uh-huh.
she was only 51 when playing that character.
Yeah,
How crazy is that? The rest
there
were in
is a
their 60s.
there's a TikTok right now where she says she's like 42 and 5'6" or something like that, and all the millennials are losing their minds. Blanche was not 46, folks, in case you or 42.
51 though. The rest were
Yep.
all in their early 60s. That's another thing you can look up online is all the people that you thought were old in your shows growing up and how old the actor was playing them, and a lot of them were in their 40s and you thought they were 60 plus, or at least they seemed like they were when you were in your 20s and were a dick basically for thinking about how old they looked. And
For sure, for sure. Oh my
and
goodness, it's true.
I'll never forget how old I thought my parents were at 40, and now I'll go back and look at their picture, I'm like, "God, my parents were so young," and then I'm like, "Fuck, I'm old, this is bullshit." You're right, though, we can't not discuss Cheers. I really thought about it, and I thought about memories too, and I have one specific high school memory. My girlfriend's parents had a great finished basement with a bar and everything in it. I was hanging out with her, and her brother came down with, like, 5 or 6 of his best friends, and they just brought cases of beer. I'm like, "Sure, we'll hang out with them." And we started drinking. We had VHS tapes because this is like 1988. I'm gonna age myself for sure, but they had VHS tapes of Cheers that their parents had recorded. All of us drunkenly sang the Cheers theme song to the VHS tape, stopped it, rewound it, did it again, repeated this at least 4 times. I can visualize it to this day. Still makes me smile. It's just a great memory. But because I had to sing it so many times that night, and of course, it just always stuck with me, I could still sing that song word for word. Let's really get old here for a second and say those were good times, right? And it was cool. And my family owned bars back then, so it was my dad's favorite show. That
Well,
definitely
and that
brought a
show,
lot.
it was supposed to be a Boston-based show. So,
Yeah.
growing up in Massachusetts, it made it even cooler. It was, let's go to the Cheers. There was the Cheers bar. We were too young to go to the bar, but everybody would go and there would take pictures back in the day. There was a lot of t-shirts. There was a lot of merch. I just remember that being really, that was heavily marketed for sure.
You're
That's one of the first.
absolutely right. I think that was probably one of the things that really launched the NBC store. You could get, I think it was primarily Cheers merch. Later, it was Seinfeld,
Yeah.
Letterman. The Letterman
The
merch
Letterman
was
stuff. Yeah.
amazeballs when he was still on NBC. I mean, the Cheers stuff was very hot. You wanted that T-shirt. You wanted the beer mugs with the Cheers logo. So I think we've covered a lot of great ones. It's funny that we really did all comedies. The one thing I want to ask you as we close it, do you think theme songs are as important or impactful today as they were then? And if so, why or why not?
I just think no. I mean, I mentioned it earlier. I think they're not required listening where you had to listen to it before a show. And there was always an outro too. So there was always like the little clip at the end, like Gilligan's Island is a good one. Like, they do the song at the beginning and then there's even like the outro. And so you would even add that like when you were singing the song if it was the end. I just don't. I mean, there's some great songs though, don't get me wrong. I mean, we could go on and on about how many great songs there are now. There's a bunch of them jumbled in my head and I'm gonna get the wrong name of the show if I say one, but I think you can skip them. And if you're doing a binge watch, it won't even offer to play it. I just don't think you hear it as much, so they don't get embedded in your brain. You don't get that earworm, all day. So no, I think there's good ones. There's some that are probably just excellent music. When you think of like CSI and Law and Order, it's not even music really. Well, I guess it is. That one gets stuck in my head. Again, if you're binging, I think you miss out on the fun of.
Did look up a couple of like what would be some of the more modern theme songs that critics agree upon. Because here's what's funny: you can look up as many different lists as you want as far as top television theme shows, and no one agrees. There's no clear overall winner. There's one where it's the Jeffersons, one that it's the Simpsons, and those are both good. And we didn't even mention those. The most modern that seem to be getting a nod at least are Succession, Game of Thrones, and Stranger Things. So those are the newest ones to get nods. Some of the ones that are a little newer, they're calling them modern theme songs, still goes back into early 2000s. The OC, the Jackass theme song, now I can't unhear it. Sopranos are all mentioned.
Oh,
And those,
Sopranos, that's a good one. Yeah.
yeah, those are all good ones. I don't know that any of them really hold up. None of them that I'm aware of are as long as Law and Order. That's one of my favorite all-time TV shows. It's my background noise. It's my late at night. That is a long theme song. It's tough because some of them I'm watching on DVD, and so there's no skip theme song. And if you try to fast forward it, the Blu-ray player's like, "Hey, dude, you're lucky I
Yeah.
even still exist. Don't try to get right through this theme song." They're not as long because it's not as much of an art. I think most of those composers now focus on movies because the amount of movies and just media in general. And that's why I think we couldn't think of any modern theme songs right off the top of our heads, is there's just too much out there.
No, it's totally saturated. But what I was just thinking is the ones that I do think of, there's not a whole lot of words. There's not a whole lot of lyric. It's mostly like White Loon and like when I start thinking about different songs that I do think of, it's music. There's no words. There's no catchy. I'm not learning about the facts of life, Mick.
Absolutely not. And that's what it's all about, isn't it? And this is a topic that not only am I sure we're going to have spinoffs, we want to hear back from our listeners. Tell us
Yes.
what we missed because we missed a lot. I'll throw a couple out there before we go. Let's not forget the old Batman theme song, The Muppet Show, Pokemon. As a parent, I had that one. I've got two that I dare you not to unhear in your head. The first one is the Flintstones.
We weren't doing cartoons.
Even if you didn't watch the show, tell me you can't sing along immediately to the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle theme song.
Okay, that I absolutely hate Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and I will go down with the ship. I don't want to talk about them. And you can all send me hate mail.
All right. Well, then let's do a little palate cleanser. Last one I'm going to throw on there, In Living Color.
Ooh.
That's one that was a hip show that set the tone. This is a different sketch comedy show than Saturday Night Live. This is different. It separated itself from everything else by having a very hip urban theme song to accompany what you were about to watch. Reach out to us. Tell us what you think. Tell us our
Yes,
big
please.
misses. Tell us the ones that you think were high. And let's make sure you include some hate for her disdain for the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. One of the greatest comics of all time, changed the course of comic book and graphic novel history. This is Mick and Kerry telling you, go out there, have some great conversations. Take care.
See ya.